right, let's dive into a story. It's about a company everyone knows, but a story that's both fascinating and, honestly, kind of sad. The fall of Blockbuster, remember? Blockbuster, those stores. The blue and gold, they were everywhere. Movie night, right?
Yeah, they were a huge part of a kind of a cultural thing, really, for a whole generation. And they were massive. At their peak, they had over 9,000 stores globally, opening new ones like constantly, practically every 17 hours. Crazy, right?
It's hard to believe, thinking back, that a company that big could just, well, vanish.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone I knew went to Blockbuster. Browsing those aisles for the perfect Friday night movie, it was a ritual.
It really was.
So how do they go from ruling the world to, filing for bankruptcy? It's like, what happened? That's what we're looking at today. We've got this article from Inspire IP, from industry giant to bankruptcy, the Blockbuster failure story, and it really digs into what went wrong, missed opportunities, internal problems, the whole thing.
Yeah, it's a wild story. One of the things that stands out is how Blockbuster's core strength turned into their biggest problem.
Oh, interesting. What do you mean?
Well, they were all about those late fees, like punishing people for enjoying movies.
It's almost ironic, isn't it? You'd think they'd want to keep people renting, not make it a hassle.
Totally. But that's exactly what made space for competitors like, Netflix. Flat fee, rent all you want. Blockbuster's late fees started to look pretty bad.
Which brings us to, the ultimate what-if moment, when Blockbuster could bought Netflix back in 2000.
For only $50 million. Crazy, right?
Yeah. It's almost unbelievable knowing what Netflix is worth now.
It's like they couldn't see the potential. The article even quotes the former Netflix CFO, Barry McCarthy, saying Blockbuster laughed them out of the office. They just didn't get it.
It's like they were so successful, they missed the signs,
Yeah, and that Netflix thing wasn't a one-off. It showed bigger issues within Blockbuster's leadership. They had these power struggles happening, made it even harder to adapt.
Right. The article talks about those fights. Carl Icahn on the board, he wanted to stick with the stores. But then CEO John Antioco seemed more open to online stuff. Then there's Jim Keyes, took over as CEO, and was also against expanding online.
Yeah, total lack of unity at the worst possible time. While they were arguing, Netflix was growing, taking advantage of the changes Blockbuster was ignoring.
It's almost like they were stuck in time, thinking physical stores were the only way.
Yeah, classic example of not adapting to the market. Things were changing fast, and they weren't changing with them.
And speaking of not adapting, wasn't there that Total Access program? I remember when that launched, 2006. Rent online, swap at stores. I thought it was a pretty good idea at the time.
It did seem promising. People liked it, but the article says it had a big problem. The cost of those DVD swaps, every swap cost Blockbuster money, made the whole thing unsustainable.
So they were trying to compete with Netflix, but using the old ways of doing things.
Exactly.
Like trying to fix a broken spaceship with duct tape.
Right. Totally. Just didn't work.
So was that it? Was Total Access the thing that, finally took them down?
It was definitely part of the problem, money-wise. But the article says it was more like everything kind of came together to, sink them. Viacom sold their part of Blockbuster in 2004, and then by 2010, bankruptcy. Over $1 billion in debt.
$1 billion. Wow. That's a long way from opening a new store every 17 hours.
Yeah, it shows how fast things can change. In business especially. You don't adapt, you get left behind.
Mm-hmm. It makes me a little sad, honestly.
Yeah.
Blockbuster was a big part of growing up for so many people. Friday nights, picking out a movie was exciting.
Yeah, they were part of the culture. It shows that even huge companies aren't safe. You lose sight of what customers want, the world changes, and that's it.
Makes you wonder if there was anything else besides Netflix and their own infighting that contributed to the whole thing.
The article quotes Blockbuster's old CFO, Tom Casey. He actually says that lack of money, not just Netflix, was a big problem. They couldn't invest in the new stuff, change fast enough.
So a perfect storm. Netflix beating them, their own ways holding them back, and no cash to fix it.
Seems like it. It's a warning, right? You got to be agile, focus on the customer, and be ready for new ideas.
Like they were stuck in the past even when they tried to change. What can we learn from this to apply to our own lives, our work?
I think the biggest thing is be adaptable. Be open to change. Blockbuster got so stuck in their ways, they missed the chance to evolve.
The world was changing around them, and they didn't keep up.
Exactly. The world's changing faster than ever, Yeah. Got to be able to anticipate what's coming, learn new things, get out of your comfort zone. That's true for companies and for us individually.
Don't wait for things to change. Be part of the change.
I like that. Blockbuster is a reminder that even the biggest companies can fall.
So what does all this mean for, businesses and people today? How do we avoid being the next Blockbuster?
I think it comes down to learning and adapting constantly. Be curious about the new stuff, new tech, new trends. Don't be afraid to experiment, even if it shakes things up. And the most important thing, listen to your customers. What do they want? What problems do they have? How can you give them what they need?
Stay ahead of the game, keep innovating, and be ready to change direction when you need to.
Exactly. Things are moving fast, and the only way to survive, to really thrive, is to embrace the change and adapt with it.
Blockbuster is a sad reminder of what happens when you don't.
Sad, but also a really good lesson.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the fall of Blockbuster. Fascinating stuff, even if it's a little, sad.
Yeah, a lot to think about.
And maybe a little bit to, look at ourselves, too.
For sure. Makes you wonder what companies right now are making the same mistakes. Who's about to fall, even if they seem huge and successful?
That is a great question. Something for all of us to consider. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, it's kind of spooky, right? Like, are there companies we think are untouchable that are making those same mistakes right now?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, things change so fast. Any company that's not paying attention, not adapting, they're vulnerable.
It's like the whole business world is this crazy survival game where the rules keep changing on you.